Hey, it's Barrett with the Gimpy Camper. Do you know how much propane's in your tanks? You know, I used to keep some of those inline propane gauges on the RV, but they really weren't that helpful at all. And they basically just tell you when your tank is empty. I've often said if I was going to upgrade to a gauge, I would just pick the Mopeka Gauge, just because it's the only system that I've seen people consistently give good reviews to. I will say that this really isn't necessary for the average RV user. If you just want to save some money, all you have to do is leave one of your propane tanks off if you got 2 tanks, because that's what I've always done before. It's what I always recommend. You know, you don't have to buy this expensive kit if you don't want to. I do think it works well, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But if you don't want to spend the money, all you have to do is turn one of your tanks off. What's that going to do? Well, that's going to override the automatic switchover, which I think is one of the worst things that you can have on a camper. And that's going to always give you a 50% reserve. We have a video on about how I feel about that right here. I'll leave that here if you're interested. But in a nutshell, basically all it says is, if you're going to wake up in the morning because your furnace ran out of propane and you're going to be cold, I'd rather wake up and have to go turn the other tank on and know that I can go at my leisure over the next couple of days and fill that tank up, rather than leaving that automatic switchover on and both tanks on, using all my propane up and not being able to use my furnace, my fridge on propane, my stove, my grill, or any of that other stuff, my water heater if I'm boondocking, without having propane until I go fill it up. So that means I'm going to be cold the rest of the night. I don't like being cold. So like I say, just turn one tank off and you should be good. If you really want to upgrade and take it to the next level, you can upgrade to the Mopeka system. Now, they have 2 different RV kits, and that's important. So one's their regular system and one's their Pro system. I decided to go with the Pro system, and the reason's pretty simple for me. Obviously, it's more expensive, but the main reason that I went for the system is that those sensors that go on the bottom of the tanks, they're circular, and the other version's more of a rectangular shape. And it appears to me like that circular shape would be more stable on the bottom of a propane tank. Now, I don't like having a lot of setup and takedown, so I don't plan on taking these off. And I have drove from Tennessee to Louisiana, back to Tennessee, back to DC, back to Tennessee, and back to Louisiana again. And there's not been any issues with the sensor coming off. I have watched some reviews where people say they take those off whenever they travel. And if you want to do that and more confident in that, that's fine. I actually thought about putting like a screen in the bottom of my propane bay because, you know, half of it is open. And so my theory was that if the sensor fell off, then something would catch it. But I never got around to that. And basically we're doing trial by fire. And after that far on these bad Louisiana roads, everything's been fine. So I think I'm just going to let it ride at that. So let's talk about installing the sensors. So the first step in the install is to download the Mopeka app. I would recommend using their halos as well. You know, it comes with these little spacer things, but the spacer things, people talk about them breaking, and they're really harder to put on. And so, you know, if you're going to go all in, and I already told you this was a freely purchase, just go all in, get their halos. It's a piece of silicone that goes all around the bottom of the tank. You don't have to worry about how they're spaced out when you're putting them in the bay, even if you only have half of the floor under the space like I do, and everything will be fine. Now, the only point in the spacer is that because you have that sensor under the tank, it does take up a little bit of space, and you don't want to crush the sensor. And so what the spacers do, no matter which version you do, they lift the tank up about 1/4 of an inch, and that way you don't have to worry about the sensor whenever the tank's sitting down on the floor. So then you want to go ahead and clean the bottom of the tank with some alcohol and put some of the included dielectric grease in the center of the bottom of the black sensor that's on the sensor itself. After you have the grease on there, you're going to go ahead and push the sync button on the sensor, and this will allow you to sync it to the app. Then the app's pretty much going to walk you through the rest of the setup. It's going to ask you the size of the tank and what kind of alarms you want. And the alarms are going to be like things like when you want it to tell you that it's getting low. So you can set that manually if you want a different number than what's on there. I will say that I've been very impressed with these sensors. I knew they would work good, but I'm most impressed about the fact that they work through Bluetooth as well as they do. And I didn't get the Wi-Fi bridge, but I get notifications in my house from my camper that's across the street, and it's probably 300 or 400 feet away. I'm also impressed that the sensors have stayed on with these very rough roads. I will say that I was able to find it one time and I've not been able to find it since then, but I believe that on the Pro sensors that each magnet is rated for 3 pounds, so that gives like 6 pounds of holding force. I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure that that's what I read in the past. I was worried that it would be a pain when filling the tanks, but it's really not been too bad. What I usually do is I remove the sensor and the halo and I place it in the compartment of the camper with the dielectric grease side up, and then that way whenever I go take the tank and get it filled and bring it back, I don't get the two sensors mixed up, and it always gives me the right side. So it says passenger side, driver side. That's how I have mine set up. And no, those never get mixed up because I don't ever take those sensors away from the compartment of the camper. Then when I get the tanks filled, I just bring it back and I just put it right back on the bottom. I've not been real good about cleaning it every time and adding more grease, but it seems to be working fine. And I do have the grease that I carry with me, so I can do this at any time if it starts giving me any issues. We were happy with this upgrade, and if you're interested in the sensors, like I say, there's going to be links down in the description. It is an Amazon affiliate link. We do make a little bit of money when you use that, and that helps support the channel. And guys, I just want to thank you for being part of our family and joining our videos. And please hit that subscribe button if you hadn't, so you can follow us on our journey.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.